So I'm Julia Samuel, and I'm a psychotherapist. And I worked in the NHS at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington for 22 years, supporting families when a baby or a child died. And through that work, early on in that work, I helped establish and launch Child Bereavement UK, and I'm founder patron. So I've been working with them, which supports families when a parent is bereaved or a child is bereaved. And what got me into it is both kind of, I think everyone who does this work is for your own reasons. I haven't had the death of a child or a significant loss, but I was brought up in a family where there had been multiple quite tragic losses that were never ever talked about and never grieved. And I didn't fully realise the impact on me until much later. The reason I'm a therapist is because I like building relationships with people, I like connection, I like being able to make a difference. And then I chose the therapy, I think, instinctively because of my own history with my parents. And it's certainly the best thing that I've ever done. I love what I do. And it's a strange job, and people often wonder why on earth do you spend every day of your working life talking to the bereaved, teaching bereaved, to the bereaved, writing about bereavement, loss. And really it's because I think unless we face death and loss and grief, we are in some way denying the real value of life, and that we need to hold both in order to fully engage with life. So I never intended to write a book. Virtually everybody I know has always wanted to write a book, and I didn't think I had anything to say. And I did a radio program, and an agent wrote to me and said, would I think of writing a book? And I said no. And she asked me for coffee, and she said, listen, you don't have to write it. I said, writing a book's like homework. It's like homework every day forever, and I can't face it. And she said, listen, just do a proposal. And if we get you a decent offer for the proposal, it's not like doing homework forever, and then we'll see what happens. And I sort of didn't do it for months, and then eventually I just woke up one day and I did the proposal very easily. And literally the book just came out of me. It was sitting, waiting to come, and I loved writing it. I mean, obviously I struggled and battered my head against the wall, but it was amazing what I remembered. I mean, it was amazing, all these stories, hundreds of people that I've seen over 25 years, how they lived in me. And it was so nice to be able to connect with them and find ways of finding a voice for them, and find ways of letting myself know what I had learned over the years. I didn't really know that I'd accumulated so many strong opinions, quite apart from anything else. And I wrote it, the voice that I hope comes across is that it's a personal voice, that they can feel me. For the people that can't see me or maybe don't have access to a counsellor for themselves, and there are lots of very good counsellors, so I'm not saying it from that reason, but if they don't have access, that they could use the book as a version of me that can support them while they go through this painful process. My underlying view is that grief is extremely personal. It is very unique. There isn't one way to grieve, and everybody has to find their own way. At the same time, I think the process of grieving is that paradox of that you have to find a way of living with the reality of the loss, and pain is the agent of change, and pain is what forces you to adjust to this new reality that you don't want. And we all develop early defenses and mechanisms to deal with pain. And it is often the things people do to avoid the pain that do them harm. You know, whether it's alcohol, working, gambling, sex, avoidance, destructive relationships. There are so many ways that we find ways of actually not allowing ourselves to feel pain. And so I wanted to think of a way that wasn't kind of bossy and wasn't prescriptive, that every person could engage with for themselves in their own way of supporting themselves to manage the pain. And so I thought of this idea of pillars because it's like a building that keeps the building up. And I think you do feel very fragmented when you're grieving, and you feel often shattered in your being, and you feel very weak. And I like the idea that if you had constructs that you could kind of lean on, that would allow you to weather these great wafts of pain that comes like the weather through your system. And the concept that I came up with was 8 pillars of strength. And they are the relationship with yourself, the relationship with the person that's died, ways to express grief, recognizing your limits, time, recognizing your relationship with time is altered, mind and body, limits, structure, and focusing.